Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm rising today to pursue a question that I asked initially in question period on March the 18th. That date was only 3 days after the quite extraordinary Friday climate strikes at schools across Canada. School children joined millions of other children around the world on March 15th for a global school strike for the climate. For those who are unfamiliar with this movement, I urge you to look up Greta Thunberg, the young Swedish student, a young woman from Stockholm who at 15 years old started climate strike just by herself, sitting outside her school in Stockholm. She is now 16 years old, and the movement has grown to such an extent that, as I put in my question to the Prime Minister on March 18th, just days before, in Montreal, 150,000 school children marched for climate action. Let me say that again. In Montreal,
150,000 students joined the demonstration to act to protect our climate.
The response was to say, we hear them. We hear the children. We are taking action. Our plan is to create a cleaner, more prosperous future for our kids and our grandkids. It's telling, Madam Speaker, that at that point, the Prime Minister wasn't speaking of the words, we're in a climate emergency. In the last 24 hours, both the Liberals and the New Democrats have put forward on the order paper 2 resolutions that I welcome that we'll be able to debate and talk about the real extent of this emergency. I think it is telling that on May 6th, the by-election in Nanaimo Ladysmith elected a second Green Member of Parliament. I can say his name out loud because he isn't yet a sworn Member of Parliament. Paul Manley's election appears to have had a salutary effect on the understanding of both Liberals and New Democrats of the extent of the emergency in which we find ourselves. But what I want to suggest for the emergency debate, the late show we have tonight, is that we really should find ways to support both the motions that come before us on Thursday. The NDP's motion is clearly more detailed and stronger, and I certainly will vote for it. But it's not insignificant that the Minister of Environment has for the first time put forward a motion that says that we should declare that we are in a national climate emergency. In doing this, we will join other countries around the world. I do believe the language, national climate emergency, focuses the mind on what the school children have been trying to tell us, that we are not in a status quo world. We are living in a time where the actions we take, literally in a period of months, not years, in a period of months, we will have to make the decision whether it's 40 months, but we don't have much more time than that, to change course globally, to commit in Canada, and to exert leadership globally, that we are going to stop using fossil fuels. It's clear that we have to say these words out loud. We have to find transition strategies. There are workers in the oil sands with transferable skills who can do many other things that have to do with renewable energy. And as we continue to use fossil fuels for some time further, let's use only Canadian fossil fuels and stop the imports. We can solve the question that keeps being raised of economic dislocation. But we cannot debate physics. We cannot win an argument with science. We cannot ask science to meet us halfway. To protect our children and grandchildren, we need to acknowledge this as a climate emergency and set the course to stop using fossil fuels. I thank my honourable colleague, the Parliamentary Secretary. To the list of things that Liberals have done, and there is credit that is due for the things they have done, bottom line is that those cumulative actions do not meet the existing, what's called under the Paris Agreement, nationally determined contribution, which is Canada's target. The cumulative effort described does not meet the target, but the target is not the Paris target. Our current target is the one left behind by Stephen Harper, and it is inconsistent with holding to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius global average temperature increase, which is not a political target. It's a do or die target. It's what is required to hang on to human civilization. We can't confront a climate emergency if nation states fall apart. We can't confront a climate emergency with billions of refugees. The reality is, talking about doing more after 2030 is a promise to do too little, way too late.